All right, today we're just going to have a little look at vinyl mixing. Back when I got into DJing, which was in the late 90s, I basically learnt on vinyl, and that's something that I've practiced and loved, the whole time I've been DJing, long before digital came out, long before the sync buttons were around. Pretty much I bought most of my music on vinyl or CD and basically mixed. Now this setup here, this is pretty old, got my DJM 600 there. That was probably 25 years ago. Got that. And then a set of Newmark TTX1s. The reason I went for these over the Technics 1210s or 1200s was really because of the amount of torque that these have in their motor. So it gives you a little bit more leeway for sensitivity. You can be a bit more heavy-handed because the motor's a little bit stronger, and also it will go either plus and minus 20 in the pitch and also plus and minus 50. And I quite like having the digital display so that you can see sort of the point whatever's how much you have increased or decreased the pitch of the record. So without further ado, we'll probably crack on with this. For those of you that haven't done any DJing with vinyl before, if you look at the vinyl's basically cut, and the tune is all of the lines that you can see on there. If you look at these darker areas, this is basically where the breakdowns are. So just by looking at the track, you can sort of see the general layout, where it's got minimal stuff here with the beat leading into it. Then as it gets more complicated, you can just see the actual pattern change of the cut of the vinyl. Also, we've got the needles here. So we've got the cartridge and the needle. And at the very end of the needle, let's see if we can actually see that. You can't quite, so I'll take it off and have a little look. So if you have a look, let's see if it can come into focus. So on the end of that little bit of metal there, it's quite hard to see. But there's basically a little diamond on the end of there that picks up all of the sound. And then that sound travels through the cartridge and the tone arm. Got some wires in the tone arm. And then into your mixer and then out to your speakers. So the first thing you do, I would say, when you're mixing a vinyl is you'd find your first beat on the vinyl. So you get the old platter spinning. And then what you want to do is just be very gentle, because if you're not, it can make up a right mess. You drop that on, and then you just try and catch your first beat. So there's the first beat. Then once I've found the first beat, I'll take it back to where it begins, and then I'll position my hand in a place where I can scratch that first beat into the beat of the next track. At the start of each record, you can see there's a series of lines on the vinyl. That's just basically blank sound that will lead into that first beat. So what you want to be doing is you want to be taking your needle and placing it gently onto that line, so that when it starts playing, you can then have a bit of time before you catch that first beat. There we go. Also at the end of the track, you have another section of recorded blankness, really, at the very end. And it basically will just lead it onto a loop that will then just keep going over and over. As we'll see, you can see how it joins up to that inside loop, and then it will just stay on that until you change the record. When I'm mixing in a new record, what I'd do is I'd check on the record that I'm mixing out of and just check the pitch. I'd usually match the pitches, so this is on +5, so I'd make sure that this record is on +5, and then I'd adjust the pitch accordingly in the headphones until I'm happy with the beat being matched and ready for the mix. Right, when I'm finding a beat for the record and trying to match them, I'm basically going to speed it up and slow it down in two ways. So when the record's playing, if I wanted to speed it up, I'd probably just put my finger and just give it a little nudge. As you can hear, a slight difference. And I would just push on the label, the middle, so that you're not affecting the record. Also, if in the same sense, if I needed to slow it down, I'd just run my finger along the platter. You can see how it's got all of these grooves on the platter. So I'd just be running my finger along there just to slow it down slightly or speed it up slightly. So if you got that in the context of a tune, put the other record on. Just take that back to start. Take this back to the beginning. Right, at the moment it's a little bit slow, I think. Should speed it up. Until we're getting it in time. Somewhere around there. And then if it's still going out of time, I would be obviously changing the pitch as I've found the beat when it starts to go. So at the moment I'm slowing it down. So that means it's too fast, so I've got to slow the pitch down a little bit. Now we're into the breakdown again. I'd obviously be doing all this in the headphones. Now the reason you want to find that first beat is basically because a lot of dance music is made up of like a 4/4 sort of a beat. So you're in amounts of 4, 8, 16, 32, and that makes up the bars of the music. And on any one of those points, the 4, 8, 16, 32, we may get a change in the actual track itself, like new sounds may be introduced. There may be a breakdown at the end of one of those bars, but so if you're counting in 4s, then it's just really going to help you in when to drop the beat and basically when to mix the track. So if we play the track that we've got on here, which is Orion Eternity, yep, a nice classic trance one. One, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So where I was counting 1, 2, 3, 4s, that's where I'd be scratching my beat. So I'd be doing this in the headphones, so you wouldn't hear me spinning back the track. So there's that first beat, and then I'd be counting them in when it comes to the next bar, which is about now. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4. Then you can drop the beat. Now if it's too, at the moment it's too slow, so what I would do is I would speed it up. And then if I went too fast, I would slow it down by rubbing my finger on the platter. Then we'd adjust the pitch accordingly. I went to the breakdowns, there's no more beats. So what I would be doing in my headphones is I would be taking it back to the beginning. I'd be finding that first beat again. This should all be in my headphones. There it is. Channel 2 and 3 are playing the records. As you can see, the one that is playing has increased treble and also increased bass, and the one we're mixing in, channel 2, have them slightly decreased. Now if you could imagine that they were clock faces, it would be like on the one mixing in would be like 5 to 12 on the treble and the bass, and the one mixing out that's playing would still be on 5 past 12 on each, as you can see if you imagine them as clock faces. Right, now you've got these, the treble and the bass at 5 to 12 and 5 past 12. So when I'm transitioning the mix, I will basically be twiddling the knobs, so that'll be going anti-clockwise and clockwise. So the tune that's coming in will be going clockwise, tune that will be going out will be anti-clockwise. So as I'm adjusting, I will just be taking out the beats, taking out the treble. It will just help with the transition, and you'll see in a minute when I do it. This is basically what I'll be doing in that moment until they're pretty much just swapped over. So these will then be 5 past 12 and these will then be 5 to 12. Right, I've got it all teed up at the moment. I've basically got Reflect, Need to Feel Love on the first beat. Over on this deck, we're basically just before a drop on this deck, so I can just show you the transition. I've done it in my headphones, so I'll just go through the process now and drop the next record in. Fraternity. Once I'm happy with the speed, because I've already matched the beats, then I can start doing the mix. Now what I'll do is I'll start off at 5 to 12 on the treble and the bass as I'm bringing it in. And then what I'll do is I'll basically adjust them both together. Wait for a beat change before I change the bass, like here. A little bit too much, but that's alright. Slowly fade this out, and that'll be the mix.